the ways that consumers today are researching, discovering, and ultimately buying is changing so rapidly.
I'm Stephanie Paterik, Editor-in-Chief of The Current, and here in the studio today we have Peter Giordano. He is Head of Ads Platform and Growth at DoorDash. I'm so excited to have you here.
Thanks for having me, Stephanie. Happy to be here.
So given that your customers are using your platform in a really intentional way, they're there because they want to be there, what does that make for with the ad experience?
Yeah, great question. You know, one of the decisions that we made from the beginning that we're still very proud of today is that our restaurant ads product, our sponsored listings product for restaurant advertisers, we only charge advertisers if it works.
Oh, that's interesting.
What do we mean by that? They don't pay for impressions. They don't even pay for clicks. A restaurant advertiser only pays if that ad converts to an order for them. Wow. And they only pay on a cost per order model. That was a decision we made for a couple of reasons, right? Because to your point, consumers are, high intent. We want to make sure that the ad products are actually working, and we're charging our advertisers only when they're getting a return for it.
Yeah.
Over half of our advertisers are local mom and pops and SMBs, and we want to de-risk the proposition for them. They don't have to front an advertising budget without understanding what it's going to return. We want to make sure that they can feel comfortable that the money they're spending is actually driving their business forward.
So I want to ask a question for the marketer who is planning their media holistically.
Yep.
What channels does commerce play well with?
We started with on-site ad products because, as we talked about, our customers are very high intent, and obviously reaching them in that moment is the best and the most impactful place to start. Yeah. But we also continue to get questions from our advertisers about more. What more? How else can I talk to your customers? How else can I use your data? How else can we work together to build a more full funnel and more holistic story? So we've continued to build products where we're now going offsite with our ads products. We started with search, which is obviously still very high intent, just outside of the DoorDash ecosystem. And then I've added more social platforms and more creative formats and now display and sort of upper funnel tactics on behalf of our advertisers. I think commerce plays at all of them, but just for different outcomes and different metrics. So CTV or even digital out of home, like much more upper funnel tactics, still make sense to be tied back to retailer data or commerce commerce purposes, but obviously a very different purpose than a sponsored listing in an app. And that's what we keep hearing from our partners is how can we work with you to engage with the customer at every single one of those steps.
In your opinion, is commerce media a trend or an evolution?
It's definitely not a trend, right? It's not a fleeting trend. It is evolving every single day. The name almost doesn't matter. It's the underlying principles of allowing a brand or a marketer to engage with the customer in their moment of need or their moment of discovery, right? Because the ways that consumers today are researching, discovering, and ultimately buying is changing so rapidly, and there are so many different places that a brand and a marketer can engage with their customer. And that's why retail media or commerce media, whatever you want to call it, is so important.
So you began your career in media, which I think is so interesting. NBC News, The Today Show, Time Inc. What did your media experience help you with now?
Stylistically, for lack of a more eloquent phrase, I learned how to just get stuff done. When you work in live television, you have people yelling at you, you have news breaking, you have a red light blinking, you have a live TV show that's about to go on the air to millions of people. You have no choice but to figure it out. The second is I really learned how to adapt. So when I worked at NBC, broadcast news and broadcast television was still the thing, right? Like it set the scene for the day. It's how everyone got their information. While I worked at NBC, Twitter was invented. The iPhone came out. Consumers started fragmenting and getting pieces of information from different places and different touch points. And quite frankly, a decades-old business model was starting to be disrupted.
Yeah.
And the news industry and the media industry started wrestling with how do we adapt and how do we change. If you fast forward to today, and obviously all the disruption that's happening in the advertising and the marketing space, it's kind of a similar a little bit of a similar
It's
mindset,
changing all
right?
the time.
It's changing all the time. It's changing every day. And how do you sort of stay ahead of like new customer trends, new industry trends, new technology, and make sure that you're able to adapt with that as you go. So that's another thing that when I look back all those years ago, I think about what we went through and what we were living and how that has sort of, made me think differently today.
I so relate to that. That disruption started at like the beginning of our careers, but for better or worse, we've always been used to it evolving so fast.
Yeah, exactly.
Peter, it is so fun to meet a fellow news junkie, and I love the energy that you're bringing to advertising. Thank you for coming in.
Thanks for having me.